on the ball today. I even felt exempted from the law today. It's like this revelation dawned on me. It's so amazing, helps support the cause. I get everyone involved. I feel like I'm on the ball today. I even felt exempted from the law today. It's like this revelation dawned on me. It's so amazing, helps support the cause. I get everyone involved.
Good morning. Welcome back to another Nudelberg Daily Huddle. Not just any Nudelberg Daily Huddle, episode 995. We are rapidly approaching 1,000. I'm Mark Nudelberg. Glad to be here with you guys this morning.
I am Jake Nudelberg, Director of Success, and always running the board behind us is Shay Money. Shay, you might have had the worst weekend of us all.
Yeah, probably. It's hot.
So you woke up on Saturday and realized that your AC was broken?
Well, so string of events. Technically, when we got back Friday from Westgate, AC didn't say it sounded a little bit louder than normal, so didn't think anything of it. Saturday, still a little louder than normal, and then it got really loud like at midnight. Then Sunday morning, woke up. It was quiet or quieter. And so I thought it was all good. Went to go check it.
It's fixed.
Yeah. See some smoke. The fan is one of the fan blades is split. And so no AC for the whole weekend.
Oh, Lord. And it was hot down here this weekend. Luckily, we got some cloud cover, though. It wasn't like bright blue skies. Yeah.
And if you're struggling with the rain this morning, just know that your air conditioning wasn't broken, and that should make you feel a lot better.
Right.
Blessed for AC, which will hopefully be fixed today.
And as Dad says, he'll be back for 1,000 episodes. He'll be back at the end of the week. He lands on Friday. Good morning, Mitch Ziffer. Good morning, Michelle, Greg, Scott, Becky, everybody who's rolling in. But today's a Muse Day, I'm calling it, because it's technically feels like a Monday, but it's actually Tuesday, so it's Muse Day. And we are officially 3 weeks away from Eat, Drink, Think. And so while we are very, very, very close to capacity at that event, if you are not on the wait list, you're not even in consideration to get into the event. So if you are interested in joining us to be with us in person in 3 weeks, make sure that you get on the wait list so that you have the opportunity to get admitted to it. And Shay, while I know your weekend was pretty terrible because you were sitting in a AC-less house, we had the opposite. We had a Juju weekend. The man started Friday afternoon with his first ever soccer practice, and it turns out that he is a soccer natural, just running up and down the field, kicking the ball like crazy. Then Saturday, we got the opportunity to celebrate Gabe's birthday. Andy and Lena's sons, Gabe, turned 2, and they're good buds, aside from Julian trying to hit Gabe in the head with a bat. And then on Sunday, we decided to pick up real quick and go get a staycation down in Key Biscayne at the Ritz, where we ran into some CCHS alumni, some Cooper City alumni. We ran into Jackie and Mitch Eisen, and it was just amazing. It was just fun hanging out with their kids and our kids. And he's a Gator, so he was obviously having a bit of a hangover from their loss to Miami, and then we were preparing for what was going to be our loss to Boston College.
It is the natural. Listen, it does feel like the natural ebbs and flows of college football down here. I will say Miami hasn't felt this way in a very long time. I think even when they were under Mark Richt a few years ago, I don't know that they felt this way. So I think it is the natural lineage of Florida football, and it kind of goes in cycles. And I remember when Florida State took over after Florida was really good, and everybody started to talk shit. And then, Florida kind of got back under Muschamp, and then they started talking shit. Then Florida State again, and back and forth, and the pendulum kind of goes. So I do believe it is a little bit deserved for the Canes fans, But
do you think it can ever be the Power 3 again, the way that it used to be in the 90s? Do you think that that's even possible in today's world?
I think you're seeing it with Florida State where, and I've read the Huddle, and great Huddle, and I know we're going to get to it, so I don't want to tease the content too much. But I do think it's interesting of how replicated or how much can you replicate your system year over year. Like, I think it's okay to be a flash in the pan and win one game and have the star quarterback, but you didn't evaluate him out of high school. You didn't find him, for the lack of the better term, you've been finding players who can get the job done.
Plug and play. You've
Plug
been piecing it together.
And I think what we've seen from college football is that's not a sustainable model quickly. I think you have to start to develop them within the system and have a strong culture of development and evaluation. And so I don't know how sustainable that is yet at Miami, obviously, and obviously at Florida State, it's not working. So
I said that to John this morning because people were commenting and going back and forth on my post about Florida State this morning, which I would tell you, like, we're not going to talk anymore about Florida State after this comment. There are two major problems at that place right now. Number one is that they lost leaders last year, guys like Jared Verse, guys like Jordan Travis that went on to play pro careers. Those guys were leaders. Those guys were vocal. They led by example. They rallied guys around them. There's nobody doing that on that sideline right now. So they have a lack of leadership, which is obviously apparent. And then they have absolutely no toughness or resiliency. Like, they got offered the chance to respond to a punch in the face in week 1, which is fine. Happens to teams all the time. Nick Saban lost plenty of singular games in his career at Alabama. You never saw that team drop 2 in a row because they understood how to respond to adversity. That team has no clue how to respond to adversity.
I do think it's an interesting thing that Bama is a little bit different. They had an interception and the whole team took a picture after. And there is some slight differences that you notice that Nick Saban is no longer at the helm.
But they were still ready to play and roll.
And they are still damn roll tide, and Georgia is still very good. And I think they're both laughing at all of us Florida fans getting excited and mad about 1 loss, 2 losses, and the first week of the season. But it is good to have it back. And I am an NFL.
Let's get to some wake-up music, right?
Yes.
Let's get to some wake-up music. NFL will start this week. We're going to talk tons about that, but we're going to come back. We're going to have a special guest for the daily affirmation. Simon Simek's going to talk to us this morning, and then we're going to talk about adaptation. So let's go. Let's get this thing rolling.
Wake up, everybody. Get up, get up, get up, get up. Wake up. Come on. Wake up, everybody. Teach a new way. Maybe then and listen what you have to say. Wake up, everybody. No more sleeping in bed. No more doctor thinking. Time to thinking ahead. Come on.
So let's go. Every single time on this show, we do a daily affirmation. Why? Because mental conditioning is the most important conditioning that you can do. It sets yourself up to be able to think like a champion. And so today we're going to have a guest, Simon Sinek. Go ahead, Simon. Take it away with the day.
Every one of us can choose to be the leader we wish we had. We lead our teams and we can lead our clients when we decide that we will do everything in our power to see them rise, to see them achieve their ambitions and their dreams. And this is what servant leadership means. I serve your dream rather than you serve my bottom line.
Boom. So the takeaway is that, number one, you can be the leader that you want other people to be. And it's a great place for it to start, is first within yourself. But then he talked about being invested in everybody else as the leader, being invested in everybody else's dream, not your dream. Thought that was a great one to start with.
I'm going to pull it back to football, and I should have grabbed the clip, but something I saw this week, and I'm really excited to watch his journey as a football coach, is Marcus Freeman, the head coach of Notre Dame. Obviously, they went into Texas A&M and had a big win, but he was talking about leadership, and I don't want to talk about the whole show being football, but I just saw him talking about leadership, and I think he is one of the modern coaches, right? New head coach, younger. I believe he was a former player as well, so he kind of understands maybe how to relate to players. And he talked about it. He goes, it's interesting. everyone thinks you're supposed to be the same leader year over year. He goes, but your teams are not the same year over year, so they need different things. Yep. And he goes, and if you're not evaluating yourself at the beginning of the year, the middle of the year, the end of the year, of what your team needs from you, then you're not a very good leader. And I was like, that's such an important lesson of saying, like, look, times are going to change. The people are going to change that are in the seats. And if you're not constantly doing your best to relate to them at that time, you're going to lose them at some point.
My time with Jimbo was an unbelievable example of that. Like, he came in and he was fiery and he was in your face and he was a lot of bark. And that got a lot of people's attention and got people excited to buy in to what he was teaching. The problem is that after 2 years, after 3 years, you keep hearing the same bark with very little bite after it, and it gets old and people start to tune it out. And so because his leadership style wasn't able to change and adapt, because he wasn't able to adapt with his people, which that's going to be the next part of our conversation, is adaptation, the program wasn't able to sustain. And so, like, and Scott Garber asked a great question going back to, you know, is the portal good for business? Is the same theory hold true in business? Acquisition versus building the business from the ground up. Acquisition is very hard because whoever you purchase and acquire, the people that you bring in, there's a high likelihood that they're not a culture fit for your business. And ultimately, and like this is going to be part of our conversation on Thursday with Estelle when we're there, is when you talk about people, you have to have two separate scores for your people. You have to have a production score and you got to have a core value score. People that are super high on production and super low on core value are going to do two things. They're either going to tear your organization apart or they're going to leave your organization very quickly. Either of them don't help you. And people who are super high core value but very low production are going to be the best to work with, but aren't going to help you grow your business. Right. And so balancing those two scores for people and understanding how to create that perfect dynamic of teams is something that another team in college football that we're going to talk about right now, the Clemson Tigers, have not adapted to. For those of you who are not paying attention to college football, the Clemson Tigers were a perennial national powerhouse. And over the last 2 years have started to stumble a little bit, but they got the opportunity to compete against probably the best team in college football this weekend, and they were non-competitive against them. They were not in the game at all. So from the start of the game, they got dominated, and the final was 34-3. So I have a clip of the head coach Dabo Sweeney talking about the transfer portal. I want to play that, and then let's come back and talk about how important is it as a leader to adapt to fit the landscape of what's happening.
There's three types of players in the portal. I mean, it's really pretty simple. Most of the guys in the portal aren't good enough to play for us.
Yeah.
That's just the reality of it. The second type of guy that goes in the portal is he's only going in the portal as a formality because the deal's already been done. Mm-hmm. He knows where he's going before he ever goes in the portal. So we're not getting that guy. Mm-hmm. And then the third type of guy is going in the portal just to see what he can get.
So this is his perspective on why he's choosing not to use the transfer portal to bring in players, which Georgia has figured out how to do both, recruit high school players and get transfers. Clemson has not done any. They've had 2 transfers in 4 years. Drastically different results in that game. Jake, give me your take.
I compare it to people in business. I now, talk about the non-compete clause going away, or, the competition of people poaching people from them, or the movement to AI, or the movement to more social media, whatever the movement in business might be, right? This sounds like a leader unwilling to go down the path of finding out, right? Unwilling to find out what the potential of using it is, right?
Right.
To say that their one is a formality, that they're going somewhere, is silly. It's silly. You didn't do your research.
That sounds non-competitive to me.
You did not do the job to find out who might be coming out, who wasn't happy. And now I'm not talking about calling them while they're still on a roster or anything like that, but going through the proper channels of all these kids have agents now, have people that are in their corner that are handling business for a lot of these kids. This is not amateur hour anymore. And to treat them as such is just a lack of competitiveness, of willing to do the job that is asked of you now. Right.
It's like putting the blinders on and going, we don't care. We don't care. We're just going to keep doing it the way we're going to do it.
I think it was Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly was the head coach at UCLA, decided to leave his job as the head coach to go be the offensive coordinator at Ohio State. And he said, I am unwilling to do what is asked of me to be the CEO in today's game. I'm unwilling. I don't want to do it. Right. And I think Dabo is in this position of unwilling to do what the leader needs to do to push the organization forward.
And for context, like just to understand what the market is telling you about the business, 32% of starters in the NCAA this year came from transfers. We're transfers to a new place and starting in a new home. So this is not like a very small percentage that we're talking about. We're talking about nearly a third of the starters in college football coming from this process. And so like it reminds me of Blockbuster. Right? Like Blockbuster just threw the blinders on and was like, nope, VHS tapes are never going to go away. Nothing's going to disrupt our business. And then boom, Netflix absolutely upended them and put them out of business.
Right. And I love this question because they are so hand in hand. Right. And if you don't have a process of finding the right people, you're probably broken. If you don't have a process of training those people, probably broken. If you don't have a process for which they operate within, you're probably broken, right? You can look at Alabama. You can look at maybe DJ Ukulele or however you pronounce his. I probably butchered that last name, but the way that they're training him for the game or the system of that you are bringing these transfers in, I would tell you Miami is built of a lot of transfers and they seem to have figured out how to create urgency, create execution, right?
Well, so this is an interesting topic because what Florida State is doing with the transfer is not new. He rebuilt the program and took them to an undefeated season last year with transfers. So this goes to the point of, and Saban said this on game day, and he's so right. You could have a $20 million roster. If you didn't pay the right kids, if you didn't spend the right $20 million, it's all a waste anyways. You're shit out of luck was his exact point. So Lori talks to onboarding. I want to speak directly to Michael's question, process or people, which one is more important? They are both very important. They are both critically important because if you have the right people without processes, you don't have a way to replicate the results or replicate the expected outcomes. If you have processes without the people, you could be doing all of the right things, but have all the wrong people in the seats, and you're still not going to get those results. So it is truly an equation that requires both sides of that depending on who you are and as the world evolves, like to me, this is a conversation that if you're in the business world, social media and generative AI, right? Like both of these things have been disruptors to the way we work, how we work, what we do. Specifically social media for sales and marketing and generative AI just for the way you can run your business and the things you're able to do. If you are a leader who's acting like Dabo Swinney and being like, well, you're only getting what everybody else has from generative AI. It's only going to give you automated responses and you're still going to have to go do the work to make it your own. You're eliminating hours and hours and hours of saved time because you're putting your blinders on. Same thing with social media. Like, oh, it's not for me. How do you know until you try it or you do it?
And I think it's also a lesson of don't voice even if you are, don't voice that you're so stuck in your ways. Like keep an open mind. Like I think two examples of it out of the sports world really quickly are Dabo Swinney obviously saying that the players in the portal aren't good enough to play for us.
You just
lost by 37. So something's, you got to do something. Right. And then you got Scott Strickland who's saying, yeah, Billy Napier is going to be here for a very long time. And then you get absolutely waxed the next day, and I think it's keeping that open mind of a constant scorecard. Right. And I know we were going to get to it, but everything is a competition. Like Lance Armstrong said,
Yep.
And if you better keep judging it based on those scorecards in order to stay ahead of the game, of making sure your people process is the best and your process is the best, and your product is the best. Like, you have to continue to evaluate the actual product you're also presenting to people. So I think it's just such an interesting lesson on leadership, and when it's an interesting view at people when things start to change, like human behavior of, hey, like, I'm uncomfortable. I was successful, very successful, right? Like, and Scott talk, does it tarnish his legacy? I don't think so. He was very successful at a time. Like, I don't think Jimbo is tarnished because he tried at Texas A&M and failed. Still a national title winner. Les Miles. Go through the long list of Coach Mac Brown. We talked about, success is success, and success gets remembered. I don't think that's ever taken away.
And I think it points to the reality of how hard sustained success is. Like, you are part of the top 1% when you're able to sustain success over a long period of time. So
Bob Iger, right, is probably the best representation of consistent success. I mean, Tim Cook, maybe at Apple, or Amazon, those leaders. But like Bob Iger, I always think about, like, left, and then they brought him back in today's world, and now he has revamped ESPN, Disney, and if you have DirecTV, I'm really sorry. That was a rough weekend for you as well. Really rough. I did want to touch on that just a little bit. Like, you might have had the worst weekend.
So if you were an AT&T cable user, right? If you used Uverse, you found out, I guess, on Saturday. When did you find out?
I guess was it just DirecTV, or I guess they combined, so it's both of them?
Yeah, they're the same.
I think
DirecTV and
I think
it was just DirecTV.
I think it was just DirecTV. You had to have.
No, it was Uverse too, because
their stream, the DirecTV stream, is how they do their thing now.
Right, but so if you had AT&T Uverse, which makes you not a DirecTV user, or you were DirecTV, both of those people, because they're under the same umbrella, lost all accessibility to Disney and to ESPN.
Yeah, it cut out 5 minutes before a U.S. Open match in the middle of the LSU game.
Just done.
I don't know how you do that if you're DirecTV. One, like, how you are going to have a
what's
process.
Your plan here, guys?
What's your process of making sure that your constituents are, compensated for?
Scott Garber asked the question. He says, if they win out from Clemson, does that change your perspective? That's such an astronomically low percentage that I would still tell you, no, it doesn't change my perspective on Dabo and his unwillingness to even listen to the way the business is going and the way the world is changing.
Yeah, I would tell you, even if they do win out, they get waxed by Georgia.
Right.
They get absolutely, like, look, you could say
the bar is the bar, right?
Say what you want about the bar. The bar is Georgia, right? Like, the bar is Georgia. The bar is whoever competes with Georgia and the SEC winner. And I think we've yet to see the ACC do that in the modern landscape. And so it'll be interesting.
And like, you saw lots of teams this weekend come out and almost get beat, right? Like, Dan Lanning's done a great job in Oregon. They were battling with Idaho until the end of that game, right? UCLA, Deshaun Foster goes to Hawaii, squeaks one out in Hawaii, but they found a way to win still, right? And then you come back and you get to recover from that. You get to respond in your next outing. The teams like USC, like LSU that you saw compete at a high level, you have no doubt that those teams are playoff teams. Clemson, not a playoff team. Florida State, not a playoff team. Not with what they put on film.
What's your realistic expectation of your organization? Not everybody's going to be Disney. Not everyone's going to be Apple. Like, right? Why there's a small business category, middle, there are different size categories. I think to say that Clemson is still a powerhouse is silly. I think to say that Florida is still a powerhouse is silly. I still think to say Miami is a powerhouse is silly. Like, silly. Like,
we'll see how they handle success this year.
But that's Florida State is very different year to year. Florida very different year to year. Miami very different. Like, these other schools are consistently operating at the top of the level. The Ohio States, the Alabamas, the Georgias. So I think it's a realistic expectation. And from a fan perspective, is just enjoy the ride, because when it goes bad, it sucks, and when it's good,
I hit us with another 25-second motivational morning music. So since we went overtime, let's play the quick morning motivational music, and then Shay will take us out with Let's Get Down to Business. We will see you guys tomorrow. I will be back here with Lori. Remember, if you're looking for a way to get better, our Get on the Ball community is the place for you. Let's go.
Changes. Turn and face the strain. Changes. Don't wanna be a richer man. Changes. Turn and face the strain. Changes. It's gonna have to be a different man. Time may change me, but I can't trace time.
Please don't worry about me. I'm about to let my heart speak. My friends keep telling me to leave this, so let's